Recording.
All right, everybody. SFL podcast week 1. Super pumped. Host Guy here. I have Sean with me. He's our newcomer to the league.
What's up,
Sean
guys?
is Kyle's brother. You guys remember Kyle from last year, I'm sure. So what we're going to do here is one of my goals for the podcast is to have everyone on the podcast at least once this year. And I want everybody to introduce ourselves and so everyone can know each other. Not everybody knows each other on a personal level, but everything becomes more fun when the fantasy football league's about the people as well as, as a competitive fantasy football thing. So, Sean, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, for sure. What's up, guys? I appreciate you inviting me into the league. I'm happy to be here. Kyle has spoken very highly of it. So I'm Sean Daly. I'm Kyle's oldest brother. There's 3 of us. And I think I was, just to date myself here, I think I was 19 when Kyle was born. So, yeah, so I'm an old guy. But it's funny, too, because Kyle got super into – I've been into football my whole life. We're a football family. You're not in our family if you don't like the Eagles. And you pretty much get kicked out if you don't. But no, I'm just kidding. That doesn't happen anyway. But yeah, so I grew up going to Veterans Stadium, freezing my ass off, watching the Eagles and all that. Kyle was indoctrinated into that culture. But he got super into fantasy a couple of years ago. And I kind of was always like, fuck fantasy football. I don't know why. I just had an attitude about it. And I was like, why would you do that? It sounded stupid to me, honestly. This is going back 5 years ago. And then I got sucked into it really hard. I started with one league, which was our daily home league, our family league, which is just fun. And we have our aunts who don't know nothing go to a bar and have a guy help them draft.
Right.
Won the league. True story, right, Kyle?
Yeah, Carlton. She's a savant.
Yeah, she's a savant. I like how you left off the first part of that, but that word. But yeah, anyway. So and then all of a sudden, man, I just slippery sloped down into I'm in 15 leagues this year. I went from
oh my God
to 15. So I'm completely addicted. I admit it. I will be in 12-step next year for it. This year, I'm just going to enjoy my addiction.
How do you even handle 12 leagues, man?
You know what was great is that 13 of them are in Sleeper, and that is such a great app. Sorry, that I'm able to do it pretty well because that app is just badass, and just just because they're under one roof, it's doable. But we'll see. But we'll see though, because I don't really know, and I know Kyle's probably thinking, yeah, just wait when you get in mid. It's just all the shit that goes on. So we'll see how it works out. Yeah. But anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's just been honestly my mind always needs a place to go away from work, family, and all that shit. I just need something to consume myself into just because I just love that and getting really deep into something, a deep well where I'm interested in it. And fantasy is a great place to do that because it's just fucking endless, and this league was really fun for me because I kind of felt a little bit like a baby for the first time because I'm pretty good at drafting and regular redraft and dynasty now. I've done a lot of drafts and I've done 110 best ball drafts.
Holy shit.
So I'm in pretty invested in best ball and I do DFS and shit like that. So I'm in my comfort zone there. I mean, we'll see if my picks, work out, but I do all that. This was really tough for me because I had never done an auction draft. I didn't even know how an auction draft worked. I heard about it, but I just had never been in one. So the fact that you guys were doing it was an extra challenge for me because I just had no effing idea what to do as far as the bidding and all that. But that made it fun. I don't know how competitive I'll be this year as a result, also because I had to leave in the middle of the draft, unfortunately, due to a personal medical situation. But anyway, so it was super fun and glad to be with cool people. And yeah, anyway, enough about me.
It's cool. Good. We're glad to have you, Sean. What about you, Kyle? You introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah. I think that I know most of the people in this league except Josh. We've all been playing together for a couple of years. We've drafted together in person. So you all know my face. You know that I am very opinionated. This is my favorite league, and there's a reason for that. And it's mostly due to the crazy scoring and shit that we do and change every year. Keeping it fresh. It's one of the best parts every season is trying to figure out how fantasy football should evolve and what are the things that really matter. and then fighting with Guy about the things that do matter or don't matter. Those are my favorite parts. Dylan is one of the better commissioners that we've ever had. He keeps his record book. Yeah, everything about this league is just the absolute best. And going to auction was a great choice because it's challenging. Sean, you're not the only one who felt out of their element, like doing an auction draft. The one thing I would
everybody then.
Yeah. Hey, I think everyone has very minimal experience doing anything like that. I had the luck of doing a Superflex auction earlier this season for higher stakes. And I think that's the one thing that prepared me best for this draft was just actually being able to do an auction against real people. Nothing really compares. Like Yahoo auction mocks, they don't really do it. Most people who are doing mocks are there for the first couple picks at best.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you need to do something with stakes if there's any way to do that. So I think that's the one thing that gave me just a bit of a leg up. Although I'm not certain that I drafted a halfway decent team yet. So we'll see.
I'll trade you.
No.
Yeah, right.
Good luck though.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I moved to Savannah, Georgia, so I'm no longer in Florida. I'm not certain how long I'll be here, but I'm here for good for now. And this league has to be done remotely. So yeah, we should make videos and content and try to connect with each other over the internet.
Yeah, man.
That's the world we live in.
We miss you here. Why'd you move to Georgia anyway? What happened?
I got a job at SCAD, and I thought it was going to be fantastic. It's not the best, but I'm making do.
At SCAB?
Yeah, Savannah College of Art and Design. I'm doing marketing for them.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I probably should have mentioned that too. I didn't say what the hell, where I live or what I do. So I'm in marketing as well. I own a marketing agency and I live in California in the San Francisco Bay Area, Santa Rosa, where the fires were. If you heard about that.
Shit.
We're good now. It's all good now. Yeah.
That's your house motto.
Yeah.
Damn. All right. Well, for the ones of you that do not know me, I believe the only person that I don't know is Josh. He was the other newcomer. But I haven't really gotten to meet everyone. Really, I guess people don't really know much about me as well. My name is Guy. I was born in Brazil. My family moved here when I was about 7 years old. I'm 32 now. Well, not 32 yet. I turned 32 in about 2 weeks. Let's see. I didn't go to college. I worked with my father immediately after high school. We did flooring. House market crashed, and then stopped. Worked some shitty jobs after that, and then I went back and decided to start my own flooring company. And then a year into that, realized that I don't like doing it. So I worked some other shitty jobs for a while. And eventually I started playing poker as a source of income.
Wow.
And about 2 years ago, I moved up in stakes. And this is when I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do with my life? So I was getting my pilot's license to become a pilot. I got my private pilot's license, but as I got my pilot's license, I also moved up in stakes and poker. So instead of playing like small stakes, hold'em, I started playing mid stakes, Pot Limit Omaha. And I was making more money playing Pot Limit Omaha than I would for like the first several years of being a pilot. So
holy shit.
So it was kind of one of those things where it's just like, okay, do I invest the other $40,000 to finish to get my commercial pilot's license, to become an instructor, and work several years of flight instructing to get my hours to go into a crappy airline, or do I just continue playing poker? And I decided to just continue poker. So that's what I do now. I play poker for a living. I live with my girlfriend here in Melbourne, Florida. We've been together for 9 years now. No kids, don't plan on having kids. I got into this league by meeting Dylan back when I was in high school, I believe, or shortly after high school through a mutual friend. We met Dylan. Dylan's the commissioner of the league. Became good friends. We had a lot of the same interests: football, poker, stuff like that. First time doing an auction league, and this is my favorite league as well. But I also only have 2 leagues: this and the sleeper league with Kyle. So the dynasty league. So yeah, man. I think that's pretty much. I love playing video games. That's my hobby. That's it. That's me.
That's badass, dude. I had no idea. That's awesome. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I want to hear more about that over time. I just happen to hang out from time to time with one of the Poker After Dark guys.
Oh, really? Which one?
The thing is, it's like I'm blanking on his name right now. He's a black guy, really super cool dude. He's not from the U.S. He's friends with a friend of mine, and we're always hanging out at the same bar at this restaurant. And he's like in $500,000 games like every other night. Like he's crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, no.
Yeah. So I'll find out more because I'm not like super into poker. So like I didn't know. I was like I didn't even know where Poker After Dark was or anything. I'm just not in that world. But I'll find out more because I do hang out with this guy a lot. He's just like a friend of a good friend of mine. So.
Yeah. That's just a completely different like world from where I am. You know what I mean? Like
he's got interesting stories.
So, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's nosebleed stakes, man. That's a different crew of cats.
He rolls in a very different way. Yeah, you can just tell. Yeah.
All right. So we have a lot of new things in the league this year. A lot of it is our scoring. Like Kyle was saying, one thing is we always try to keep this league fresh because the strategy of fantasy football, the standard scoring at least, has been pretty much set down, right? Like you don't spend any money on your quarterbacks because there's a million of them and you can just drop one and pick one up and play him and he'll do fine. The really important things are the running backs and the wide receivers because you have to play 2 of them. In our situation, you play 3 of them at least every week, so you need to have a lot of them. And when they get hurt, you need to have guys to swap in and out. Tight ends is you have a couple of good tight ends and the other ones you really just ignore. So it's kind of like, you know what I mean? And kickers and defense are basically worthless. So like that's been the basic strategy for fantasy football for a very long time now. And as someone who loves video games and someone who loves like math and wants to try to figure things out, I love fantasy football. We started playing around with ideas from picking up other people's ideas, trying to come up with my own of what we can do to make fantasy football more balanced and, make us think for ourselves instead of trying to do what professionals are telling us to do, right? Like what these metadata of what everybody was doing. So one of the things was quarterback was really unimportant on original fantasy football. So we made the super flex, right? We got quarterback, made a super flex. Now you have to place 2 instead of 1. And now it's not just, the stream every week because everyone is going to have at least 2 quarterbacks. So it's going to be hard to pick up quarterbacks off the waiver wire. The other thing was we made passing yards and running yards are equal. So running quarterbacks are no longer like a cheat code of like you have these bad real life quarterbacks that are good for fantasy because they get double the points from running yards instead of passing yards. Right? And we also added first downs as a scoring options because that's just like mini touchdowns. So it's kind of like the whole point of playing football or like as an offense, you're trying to pick up the first down. So you can pick up another first down. So you can pick up another first down to eventually get to the touchdown, right? So we added first downs as a baseline for scoring, which I'm really excited about that this year. Also the PPR, so the points don't get too crazy. We toned down the PPR from full PPR to half PPR for wide receivers and to quarter PPR for running backs. Since this is one thing I wish that this website had that Sleeper does have, is the depth of target reception. I don't know if you guys seen that, where you can like, so if you catch a pass from like 0 to 10 yards, it's worth this much PPR, and then 11 to 20 or whatever is this much PPR.
Ranged or scaled. Yeah.
Right. If we had that, then I would eliminate the PPR for the running back and the wide receiver and just make them the same, and then just make it the depth of target, because a lot of running back receptions are like they catch the pass in the backfield on a dump off and then don't go anywhere. You know what I mean? So it feels weird to give them a full point for the reception when they really just got the ball and did nothing. So that's the whole train of thought on that. And then the tight end scoring, we're getting 1.5 points per first down for a tight end. Every time they get a first down, they get 1.5 points. And they also get a full point per reception instead of the half point. So the whole thought process on this, when I originally envisioned it, was you have the super good tight ends, which will be valuable, but then you have all these other scrub tight ends, right? So one thing we did on our Dynasty League was we made it so you can play wide receivers in the tight end spot. But then how do you keep the other tight ends in balance with the other wide receivers? Well, you give them more points, right? They get a little bonus. Well, in this league, we gave just the bonus without adding the wide receiver spot. So when we did the votes, so it ends up that this is going to change the tight end position drastically, because if a tight end has a good game, they're going to have a really, really good game. It's going to be right up there with the quarterbacks having a good game and the wide receivers that have the monster game. So we'll talk about this once we get into the auction, but I think it definitely made some interesting value changes to the tight end position.
Breaking news, Julio getting paid.
Nice. Thank God.
He's staying with the Raiders?
No.
Sorry. Yeah, no, Julio Jones.
Oh, Julio getting paid.
Yeah.
Thinking about Antonio Brown.
No, I know. It's just like every potential holdout that gets checked off is a good thing right now, right? Oh man.
So that's good. We get Julio.
Yeah.
And then the other changes was we completely got rid of defenses because, really, my personal thought on that was the defenses are all interchangeable, just like the quarterbacks were, and you're just playing the matchups. And there's no really a good way to score defenses. Like, to me, one of the best ways to score a defense is to promote them for doing something good. And the best thing a defense can do, other than forcing a turnover, is to force a punt. But you can't give defenses points for forcing a punt. So it's kind of like there's no really an easy way to balance defense. So it's just better to just get rid of them. And
agreed.
When it came to kickers, this one was my idea, and I think Kyle hated it. So kickers, people like to say that they are really hard to predict, but like a lot of math has come out and said that they aren't. They're more predictable than tight end position. They're more predictable than what you'll play in the flex. But the reality of it is that nobody wants to root for a kicker. It's kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like who is paying attention to kicker? Who's the best kicker? Like it's not something that people get excited about. So
it's another thing that you can research to figure out things. Like it's another vector of research or a dimension to it, where you find out teams that are historically having trouble closing the deal in the red zone, right?
Correct.
So they're going to end up, things like that.
Correct.
If you choose to do that, but if it's thrust upon you because you got a kicker, then you should probably do that.
Right. But my whole thought process is how can we make people more interested in the kicker? And the idea was make it less about the kicker himself and try to make it more about that offense. So when you're picking a kicker, you're picking that offense. Because in like the other traditional formats of kickers, it was kind of weird. You wanted the offense to go to the half, to go to like the 40 or the 35 and then stall the drive so your kicker can come in and kick a 50-yard field goal and make a lot of points, right? That's just weird as a fan to root for that situation. So another thing that the kicker position was missing that the other positions have with point per reception is a baseline, which is a consistent amount of points that keep them in line and be consistent with the rest of the positions. Now, what I proposed for this was 3 points for extra point. So if a kicker gets the chance to kick the ball and they make the point, they're going to get 3 points, be it from a field goal or be it from the extra point. It doesn't matter. They're going to get 3 points from either. So they'll always have that baseline. There's no that cheering for them the offense to stop so that they can, kick the field goal so you can get 3 points instead of 1. And now as a player, you are picking, okay, which offense is going to score a lot of points? Here, touchdowns or field goals, doesn't matter which offense is going to make it there and it's going to score, right? And that's how I view kickers in our league is going to be very similar to quarterbacks from normal leagues, where you pick based off of the matchup and you can stream them. You can drop them. If one the kicker has a good matchup, you pick them up off of the waiver wire, play them, plug them. I'm very interested to see if people will take advantage of that strategy or if this idea is just going to be complete failure. What do you guys think?
I appreciate the difference. I appreciate that you're trying to be creative.
I think that the extra point thing as a baseline is a good idea. It's the best version of this that I could find. One of my biggest problems with the volatility of the kicker position is, you're right, like offense's efficiency in producing touchdowns is one of the key detriments to like kicker scoring. Which is counterintuitive because what you're really hoping for is a team to be in the red zone a lot.
Exactly.
Whether or not they convert is it shouldn't be the difference in whether or not that particular player sees an uptick. I also think that extra points now being 32 yards, or is it even longer than that? 33,
I think.
33. I think that makes the extra point actually kind of difficult. Like, I don't know how many.
They're not a gimme anymore. They're not 100%. Like 90%.
Yeah. If you watch any preseason football, there were a lot of missed extra points. I mean, last season we saw a lot, even during the regular season. So it really increases the skill gap for kickers. You got to be really, really consistent. And yeah, you want to root for guys like Justin Tucker to be like the MVP on that team and stuff like that. Not that they're going to be that bad this year where Tucker will be the MVP, but there are certain guys where, like Greg Zuerlein, if you get him on your squad, like that team is going to produce points every week. It's nice to have somebody that you don't have to drop to stream someone else strictly because of the matchup situation.
Yeah. And another thing too is one of the little changes that is because the extra point is at 33 yards. So every yard after 33 yards, you get 0.1 points, just like for that additional yard, just like running the football. You know what I mean? Like you get 0.1 points per yard, just kicking the football after 33 yards, you get 0.1 point per yard. So if you kick a 53-yard field goal, you're now getting 5 points instead of 3 points as well.
Yeah, I like that, or 49-yard field goal. And like that being the difference between an entire point, I think that's bogus. Yeah, it's like the same level of difficulty.
Exactly. Yeah. So you get 0.1 points per yard, which I think is pretty cool. I think that's a good idea.
I like it.
I'd rather just get rid of kickers, though.
For the record, this is as good as kickers will get, but don't gotta get rid of them.
I'm not even certain of that, but we'll find out.
I personally, if you guys saw me spend in the drafts, I spent $8 on a kicker, which wow. Now looking back was retarded. But again, the way I viewed at it was what would Patrick Mahomes be worth in a traditional one quarterback league? And that's what I viewed Harrison Tucker or Harrison Tucker. I viewed him as basically Patrick Mahomes for the kicker position. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you guys can go and pick up kickers and rotate them, but I can feel strongly in having one kicker and just living him out there every single week on that one position, and just having a competitive advantage on that position.
Yeah, you're treating him like an outlier to the position, like you said with Mahomes or Kelsey at tight end.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly. That's how I scored him in.
Ah, cool. Okay.
So, let's see here. Let's go ahead. I'm going to share the screen here with you guys.
Here's a quick thing on auction too, because I see how you were thinking about that whole Bucker thing. And if there's one thing I've learned so far about auction drafts, it's that it doesn't matter if you try to set a market price for a player or a player position, the market will be more efficient than whatever like you want to try to impose on it. So like people need to equally value that position across the board for that player to match what you perceive its value to be. And especially if, so everyone's using these cheat sheets, not a single person had a cheat sheet that said pay anything more than $1 for a kicker.
A kicker, correct.
And so like, even though you might be right, theoretically, like that is the true value of a kicker in this league, is Bucker really that much of an irreplaceable level of kicker and offense over other kickers? It could be true that he is that level of irreplaceable, 8 times more than Will Lutz, but in practice, it doesn't turn out that way because the value isn't perceivable by the mass, by the other 9 players.
Yeah. So that's really the problem right there, is that and that's the challenge, is that you are going into a position that a lot of leagues don't have, and then you've got custom rules, and then you've got cheat sheets and things that don't apply to the custom scoring. So it makes it really hard on top of auction draft. So I appreciate the challenge level of this draft. It was like challenge level 10. For me especially, but yeah, no. So, I mean, it is what it is though. I'm not judging that. I knew what I was getting into. It's just like, yeah, it was like really challenging. Cause even that, as you were saying that about kickers and the scoring, I was like going to the waiver wire. I was like, I'm Justin Tucker, fuck it. But seriously, I was like, I'm learning a lot here. Holy shit.
But yeah, like, how I personally prepared for this draft was I, basically took a formula that somebody did on a sheet, which is like a value determined formula, right? Where you take somebody's stats, which you think the stats are going to be. I got those stats from like Pro Football Focus, so a prediction of what people's stats will be, and I put in our scoring format into a value determination formula, and I got values for our league, basically, right? Like, in a way, it wasn't 100% perfect, and I mean, that's how I tried. I made this, I found this formula online and put it in an Excel spreadsheet, and I was like, all right, let's try it, and that's how I personally got my values for the league, which is one of the reasons why I paid more for certain players than other people did. What did you guys just find like a traditional flex league sheets, or?
Well, I'll say one thing about auction value in general, and where that formula really came in for you. It might be the same place where most auction values are determined, and I think the core principle there is value over replacement level, or like value over stream. So like, how much more valuable is a player than someone that you would be able to pick up off of the waiver wire? And in a 10-team league, it throws a lot of the calculations really wonky, because there will be better streamable players because we're going to be thinner. But so the core principle is saying Saquon Barkley, I will never be able to find a person like Saquon Barkley on the waiver. The odds of that are like less likely, half as likely as finding a player like Dalvin Cook on the waiver wire. Although I think that Dalvin Cook is much better value there than what Saquon is based on the prices that we paid and the deepness of the roster. So value over replacement is kind of like where all the core principle of auction values comes in. And it's determined in a lot of different ways depending on like the site that you're looking at. But yeah, I used a value over stream from Pro Football Focus and then converted that to auction values, which was like, I forget the price. It was like 4. I think you would take like whatever that, how many ever more points that player would score on average per season than its replacement, and then divide that number by 4.
Okay. Did you just say about the same, Sean?
Yep. Yeah. I don't have a whole lot more to add to that.
Yeah. So was that your basic strategy there, Kyle, coming into the draft? Was to just I see you spent up real big on Saquon and you spent up real big on Kelsey.
Yeah, based on our scoring settings, to me, the most irreplaceable players were the top tight end and the top running back. I think that with half-point PPR, you obviously do want guys who can produce a little bit more in the receiving game because you won't be able to just get compiled stats. Like Trey Quinn isn't as valuable here as he would be in a full-point PPR league. But the point per first down helps a lot. So basically, you're looking at targeting guys who are the ones on their team who help move the sticks. So there was a lot of that in the receiving position and very few tight ends that you could say the same thing about. I felt good about Kelsey, Kittle. I feel I'm a little down on Ertz. And, to be honest with you, I'm coming around on Evan Ingram in a big way. So those guys are like the top of my tier. And if I could get any one of those, that's what I was going to do in this league.
I just want to add a comment about Ingram. I've come around on him too. And it's very similar to like looking at Jared Cook on the Raiders last year. It's tough to get excited about somebody on what you expect to be a really poor offense until you think, well, those targets have to go somewhere, and you're going to get those sort of check down passes to the tight end more when you don't have capable receivers for the long throws or just like that's just what that quarterback does. He's going to throw into that short intermediate range when you have a baller tight end who, is going up against linebackers or what have you. So I think like I can get behind that now after watching Jared Cook become fantasy relevant last year in a big way.
Yeah. The other thing is, quarterback replacement level position is pretty high. Like the thing about the new scoring settings is that it's, high tide raises all boats. And that's true when the distribution of points at positions are more shallow. But the distribution of points at running back and tight end are the most staggered, where you see so much at the top and then like a significant decline in production. And we know that running backs, they can pop up all the time. But, Saquon, he's kind of like game script proof. And it's a plug and play, just set it and forget it. You never even have to change him. Whereas with quarterback, I wasn't going to spend up on quarterback because, you waited around for long enough and look how cheap that these quarterbacks went off the board for.
Man, like my personal sheets, I had a tight end as the absolute most valuable position, like you said, because Travis Kelce was the most expensive player on my sheet above all the running backs, and I had Kittle shortly behind him. But when it's a 10-team league, what you said about the quarterbacks, it really is true because, now that there's 20 starting quarterbacks every league and people start forgetting about these quarterbacks because they're still in the old style mentality. You know what I mean? Like people are still playing, so they weren't willing to pay for these quarterbacks. Like look at Dylan. He got Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger for $2.
And Drew Brees for $8, Martian Law, Robert. Yeah, like that's a good deal.
Ben for 2 than Drew Brees.
Well, right. Right. But I still think K8's, that's still
good. Yeah. Russell Wilson at 13. Even like Mahomes to Deshaun Watson is a crazy drop off. You get him for half the price. I don't think that Mahomes is really twice as valuable as Watson.
See, I actually have like Matt Ryan as potentially the number 1 quarterback this year if Mahomes has a drop off.
Yeah. I think that that's viable. It's very viable. Yeah, he's been top 3 for the last couple of years.
And this goes back to the kicker thing we were talking about before. It's like, I don't think Holden was wrong to pay up for Mahomes, but I think that based on everyone's perception of quarterback value, it ended up looking like an overpay because people weren't prepared to spend a lot of money on quarterback based on prior conception of the value of the quarterback position. And they tended to be right. I think 10 team really does make it a lot shallower, or there are way more options available to you on the waiver. Like if we look now, even there are still starting quarterbacks available. I don't think that would be true in a Superflex 12-team league. Definitely not in a 14-team league.
No.
I made mistakes before too of like I've been playing Superflex for a long time. So I value quarterback pretty highly. But if the room doesn't, then.
Oh, Kyle cut off.
Oh, we lost you, Kyle. Rip Kyle's feed. If the room doesn't, he's forever etched in that moment.
Hopefully he comes back here.
Yeah. I'll listen for the reconnect and add him back in. It says he's still connected right now.
Yeah, it's weird.
Let me text him. Bear with. I'm gonna pause the recording real quick, and we are back. Welcome back, Kyle.
Sorry about that.
But if the other league doesn't value, is what you were saying.
Yeah, in the middle of my fantastic rant, so well worded, I was saying, if quarterbacks are not valued equally in your league, in the draft room that you're in, you shouldn't overpay for them. You shouldn't try to set the market price. You should just let that value fall to you and take them where you can. It's a lesson that I learned over years of playing Superflex because I do value them more highly than most other people. But if the room is really going to let these guys slip, and you just got to reap that value there. It's like the only way to win it in an auction. Something has to give way where you're going to be able to get guys more affordably. And it just happened to be quarterbacks in this league.
So this becomes a pivot point in all positions is, do you set value? Do you first mover advantage versus waiting and staying back? And maybe you can elaborate a little bit. This is a question I have being new to this format. Is how often is it advantageous to be the one who's initially setting price and driving price early on a position, maybe the first position off the board, first player in that position off the board, versus hanging back? It seems to me, and tell me as part of your reply on this, it seems to me from what I observed, at least in this limited sample size, that it's pretty much always safer to be hanging back and waiting for value to drop to you than trying to lead it and like drop. But I also noticed that you were aggressive on Saquon and spent the majority of your budget on that. That was your biggest spend. So it made me curious that like there wasn't one way to do it, right? So anyway, what's your kind of comments on that?
Yeah, it's really what position is the least placeable, and then you want to be able to spend where you can on those guys. I mean, if you look at the cost of the top flight running backs, Saquon 60, McCaffrey went at 59. If you feel like they're comparable, I think that's a fair price to pay for both of them. Bell at 32, I'm okay with that. I think James Conner at 36 is a steal. I think Dalvin Cook at 33 is a steal. Chubb at 32. So like it didn't pay that much to pay up that significantly for those guys, because then you had to wait so long for the value to come back to you. So if anything, I do regret that a little bit, only because I missed out on a top flight wide receiver. Like I like my receiving core, Lockett, Boyd, Williams, Josh Gordon, DJ Moore, like all these guys I feel comfortable starting, but I'm not superior in that position.
You don't have like a stud that you can rely on.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like Tyler Lockett with all those injuries in Seattle, man, I really have a good feeling. I was not a Tyler Lockett fan, or because of Seattle's passing, or running proclivity. But man, I'm telling you, it's just lined up. The tea leaves have really turned over for him on paper.
Yeah,
either that, or they can just realize that he's the only good receiver on the team and just try to shut him down every play.
Well, I'm a bit of a David Moore truther, but yeah, but he's hurt, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, he's on the field and he's good and he can do the job, and he's this crazy little guy that can he's a baller, straight baller.
Yeah, receivers also so volatile. I mean, look at what Devontae Adams did in his first week out. I'm not sure what the scoring was in our league, but I think he's
like 8 points in most leagues. Yeah, 8
points. So Ariel paid 50 for Adams off the board. I spent 60 on Saquon, and I expect Saquon's floor is 8 points. Probably not. It's probably more than that. It's probably more like 12. So you're paying for a lot of floor and a great upside with those expensive running backs. Those are the guys that I really want to spend the money on. I just I kind of lucked out. But I do know that if you wait long enough, the value of players is going to inherently just go down because there's less money in the pool. So you have to just pick your positions. Like, what do you really want to make sure that you leave the draft with as an advantage, and then let value fall to you where it may.
I get the sense too in a 10-man, because there is a stronger waiver wire, that, it makes even more sense to wait longer, just because those players aren't going to go. There aren't enough players to consume the entire pool of viable players. So basically there's tons of value in the back end of the draft. Now, I wasn't there, unfortunately, for the end of it, but I knew that was going to happen. There was going to be a shit pile of value at many positions where you have these like mid-tier running backs and things that are just going to still produce, like, people like James White, people like Latavius Murray as running backs. I mean, I guess you could say Mike Williams, he's in there. People there's just a lot of that value where they're going for a song later on in the draft, and they're still very fantasy viable. In fact, some of them have upside of top 10 upside, right? Some of them even have like top 7 upside, and they're going on the cheap. So anyway, I really admired the patient strategy in this 10-man, because that, to me, like, if I was doing this over again, hopefully being there for the all of it, but I would definitely be hanging back even harder, because I knew who my later round targets were. And anyway, that's just my take on it. If I was doing it over again, even more patient.
Let's talk about some of the strategy who's not here and just try to dissect it a little bit, which is Martian Law, who spent 60 on McCaffrey, 55 on Kamara, another 30 on Mixon. He only has 4 running backs. He picked up Jalen Samuels at $1. But that is how much of his budget? 55. Almost like 150. Oh, wait, sorry.
Almost 75% of his budget was on.
Yeah, it's close to 75% on strictly running backs. And at receiver, I don't think he's terrible. He's got a Kenny Galladay, a T.Y. Hilton, a Corey Davis, a John Brown, and a N'Keal Harry. He has no depth at wide receiver. I don't like that.
He's excited about.
As a fellow T.Y. Hilton Galladay owner in one league, I actually have those two guys together. I that's shaky, right? Galladay is on many fantasy analysts' do not draft lists, which, I mean, I again, not about the player. It's about the offense and the situation. And T.Y. Hilton, obviously, we have the Andrew Luck to Jacoby Brissett situation. A lot of risk there. So to me, that just spells it. And Corey Davis is very few people's favorite at all. He's just, unproven and whatever. And that offense isn't really super strong anyway. So, that's to me, that's a lot of risk there. That was a big spend. And I think the way to judge that with that huge up top spend like that is to say, what did he get for $1? Right. So I was looking at that. What did he get cheap? Right. So what did he get under a couple bucks? So he ended up with Garoppolo, Dak Prescott, all his quarterbacks were $1. He got Jalen Samuels, John Brown. John Brown's not bad. N'Keal Harry's injured. Trey Burton injured for now. and hasn't really, been super fantasy viable yet. He hasn't broken out. Jimmy Graham, not bad. But so that's kind of a weak bench to me too. Or a doubtful.
Here's the thing though, like he that's a strategy that he even said on his own video. He spent a crap ton of money on like these studs. But forget the rest of his team. He's just going to drop and pick up guys off the waiver wire, and he's going to play the waiver wire every week. You know what I mean?
Like which is viable. It's viable. So
on a 10-man league, that's definitely more viable than normally.
Yeah, I would rather though try to find a running back on waiver than I would a receiver. And it might be a steep competition for those first guys who are the breakout running back candidates, but you're more likely, like running backs they step into more opportunity when another back goes down.
Yeah.
Like last year, I mean, Nick Chubb was a waiver wire candidate. Last year, Damian Williams was a waiver wire candidate. I mentioned both those names because I had both of those players and I won the championship. So like that's, I guess my strategy is like, I would rather it's really a zero running back strategy in essence. With one of the top flight guys, because there really are only so many guys who will get that sort of unmitigated opportunity to be lead backs. There's just a handful of them, and that isn't going to be found on the waivers. You won't find another McCaffrey. You won't find another Kamara. So I don't blame him for spending there. What I would like to see him do differently is not go for Mixon there, because he spent another 30 on Mixon. I'd rather see him spread that out, maybe get a better tight end. I like his quarterbacks. I can't blame him for that. I think he's going to really miss not having a good tight end, though, when he starts to see how the scoring plays out for them, because their point bonuses are just outrageous. And I think you're going to need to have one to succeed in this league. So I would have rather have him get some depth at wide receiver and maybe a higher flight tight end option. But we'll see how it plays out for him.
Just to flesh that out, with the current waiver wire where it stands right now, the top options there are at least in terms of projections, are Taylor Gabriel, Trevor Davis, Cordero Patterson, James Washington, Tyrell Williams, Jameson Crowder. So that's what's on.
He's got to go pick up Tyrell right now.
I know, right? I was doing that as a – damn it. I shouldn't have said anything. We have 150 fab essentially. Is that what it is?
Yep, 150 fab. So yeah, let's just go down these teams real quick. Let's start from left to right. So Sean, you had your trying to hide Sean.
Trying to hide Sean, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting mix of things there.
For quarterback, you only ended up having Carson Wentz, which I think is going to be really good this year.
Yeah, that was just because I wasn't there to get my quarterback. I was gone, so I was AFK at the end. But it's very important to me to have two good quarterbacks and then a third. So yeah, that wasn't what I intended, but whatever, it's what happened. So yeah, that part of my draft is not representative of my draft strategy. Right. Just FYI.
Yeah. As opposite to what Kyle was saying, is the different strategy where you pay a lot of money for this top guy, and then for the other guys, you just try to find somebody that steps up in the waiver wire, right, to step into that spot. You went into the middle value with instead of spending a lot of money on one guy, you split that money into two different guys who both have potential to
breakout potential that I believe in. Yeah, I didn't want to pay top dollar for guys that might regress or get hurt or what have you, which I mean that's always a risk, especially with running backs. But yeah, that was basically what you're looking at for me, is guys that I think are just really, really strong producers, a little bit underrated or just poised for big years, or are in great situations.
Yeah, I was really into Chris Carson this year, and I think
Chris Carson, Tyler Lockett is which Kyle got.
I think you and I were the ones actually that brought his price up, because I really wanted him to.
I saw that. Yeah, I know. I was hoping not to be in a bidding war for him, but
yeah,
I had my eyes on him in a lot of drafts. Yeah. Yep. Go ahead. Keep going, please. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And then your wide receivers are also both you and Kyle had a bidding war for Chris Godwin. but yeah, you know, it's kind of that same thing of like those middle round wide receivers that with potential. Like you didn't spend a lot, and you also didn't end up getting the value because you weren't here at the back of the draft. So you got like a lot of these middling players with upside potential throughout your entire team.
Yeah, which I'm pretty cool with. For me, my concern is the second quarterback, which I wasn't there to get and didn't fall to me AFK wise, and then just a little bit of the depth that I have. But I'm glad I got. I got Allen Robinson for $3. I'm pretty happy about that, and I got Mike Davis for $1. I'm happy about that because I was believing in him cutting into production, which he did in the camp. I was like, there it is. I knew it. And I have a feeling that's going to continue. He's like that cancer, like CJ Anderson kind of thing, where we'll see if that's also true for him, where it's just like cutting into other people's production. Anyway, so yeah. So I, we'll see what happens. But that was my strategy going into the draft, is to take breakout. Like Carson Wentz is that, right? He's undervalued. He started to inflate in ADP in a lot of leagues at the end. But going into the season, he was like rated, what was it? He was like starting at like QB 13, QB 10. Then people started pushing him up to like QB, even maybe lower sometimes, but got up to like QB 7, 5, right? That by the time the season hit.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, he was still there where it's like, I could say, he's somebody I think is going to have a big year because of all the targets. And then you already talked about, Chubb, Carson, and then Brandon Cooks is another one for me that I just feel like, he's solid, and I think he could really break out and go big and produce. Yeah. So anyway, that was my strategy, and so much as I was there, it was enacted the way I was pretty much hoping. But I was very unsure about the money at the end and what would be available vis-a-vis what I needed, right? So I was really going into it a little bit blind, like feeling my way through it, not really feeling sure about what the values would be for the players that I truly had my own eyes on at the back end of the draft. So that was going to be challenging. So it's sort of sad I missed that, because that was the part where it was really most interesting to me, is what happens at the end of this, right?
Right.
The people that have held out versus, all that was kind of interesting. So.
And then the next team up is Chalupa Batman, which also had this strategy of waiting. She also played this waiting game really well, I believe. I personally love her team, and I end up loving Kim's team every year. I just think she's a really smart drafter. She's got Deshaun Watson for only $17, which again could be top quarterback again this year. Todd Gurley could be a top running back. Everybody's worried about the injuries, but she got him for $39 as opposed to Saquon and Christian McCaffrey, which is $60. So she could have a $60 value for $39. You know what I mean? If he doesn't, again, because of the injuries. Damian Williams is a little bit, we're a little bit weird on him now because they brought in LaShawn McCoy, but still.
But she's wise enough to back that up with Fournette at 20, Those guys, either one could break wrong or one could break right.
And I love Mark Ingram for 12. Like that's a really good move too.
This is like really the best to me. I give her the top grade. This is brilliant. The only blemish on this for me is paying $22 for Damian Williams, who I really, really feel is in a bad situation, which has been exacerbated. So yeah, it's just that. But other than that, man, that's just like, man, look at the value deep down. Like Darius Geis for $1.
Darius Geis for $1.
I mean, that's so good. Marvin Jones for $1. Oh yeah. Like Marvin I would trade. Yeah. I would trade with that team in a second. That's really strong.
She had a really strong team. And then next we had Josh, who had also played the waiting game, but didn't end up using his entire budget pool by the end of the draft. He completely ignored the quarterback position. He got Kyler Murray and Tom Brady for basically free, which, I mean, that's all right. If you're just going to be streaming your quarterbacks every week, that's good. But then he paid up for David Johnson for $40, paid up for Julio Jones for $49. He took the gamble on Melvin Gordon, $20. Hope he finds a team. You know what I mean? And then AJ Green. I don't know. I can't help but feel like this is probably one of the weaker teams in the league.
Yeah, it has a lot of implode potential. Like this team could totally bust. They could run her. If Melvin Gordon is healthy, if Kyler is a thing, if Brady has a resurgent season, but there's a lot of ifs around the production on this team. I have big concerns about it. But it's not like he's incapable of righting the ship at this point. I think he just needs a little bit of quarterback depth that would help him. And I think he's okay at running back. I mean, I wouldn't roster
I don't
Hunt.
think his quarterback is fine. I'm just worried about his wide receivers.
Yeah, he's a little thin there. AJ Green isn't going to play for a while. Sterling Shepard.
And he doesn't really have an RB2. Like, who's he going to play in a second running back spot?
Kenyon Drake.
Yeah.
Hope that situation
that's risky.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the weak spot. LaShawn McCoy is going to be in a timeshare.
We don't want to shit all over the new guy too much, but I mean,
no.
You know what? Actually, LaShawn McCoy for $3 seems like a steal to me.
You guys are crazy.
Absolutely.
Andy Reid is not going to get the band back together and not give him a lot of work.
No fuck. I'll go on record right now saying LaShawn McCoy isn't even on this roster by week 8.
You think?
Oh shit.
Why would you bring him back then? Like you're gonna bring, why would you do that? I don't know. That was a weird move.
I have no idea.
That was weird. I'm just glad he did go to the Eagles. I mean, I wish it was 2 years ago and then I would want him, but I'm just glad. Yeah, let him have.
Maybe Andy Reid lost to McCoy in a poker game way back. Owed him like $3 million ever since, and so
yeah. And the next team is my dad owns a dealership. That's Mish Dillon. I really didn't like the fact that he spent $19 on Baker Mayfield, but it all makes up for it when he got Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger for $2 frickin' dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just unbelievable value for the quarterback position there. He has like potentially 3 top 12 QBs.
Yeah. And you have to look at it as the overall, haul for the total price spent. And that's a good haul.
It's a very good haul.
Yeah, he also got his guys. He's obviously a Vikings fan. He likes Cook. He likes Thielen. Thielen looking even better right now than Diggs and giving his help.
Yeah.
Cook looking good at the beginning of the season. Half the price of Barkley for what could be a bell cow. He has depth at receiver. He's got Alshon and Tate and Cooper and Ridley.
I just can't help but feel like this could potentially be the best team in the league. I think Dalvin Cook and Devonta Freeman both have like a big potential this year. I'm not feeling too hot on Cooper.
He's boomer bust.
Yeah, but I feel like he's still got good value on Golden Tate for $3. Maybe Golden Tate will be something this year. Evan Ingram maybe will be the tight end that, we're paying $40, $50 for the top end tight end. Evan Ingram could be that tight end that steps up and becomes like a Ertz. You know what I mean?
He's beastly at running back. I mean, those are five strong running backs.
$15 like to this team. I think that this team can be really, really good this year.
Great.
It just depends if his wide receivers actually show up or not.
Yeah. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey at $4 is kind of a stupid price. Like that's a steal.
Yeah. Alshon Jeffrey for 4, Golden Tate for 3. Like
Josh Gordon for awesome. 5. Also, that was in the next one. And,
yeah. That's Kyle's team.
I know. I was skipping ahead. Yeah, I was noticing that.
Yeah.
To the sexiness of my team.
Yes.
It is so sexy. Thank you.
Kyle definitely has a bonkers team too. I'm not that big of a believer in Tyler Lockett, but
why? I want to hear why.
It's just because of the offense doesn't pass the ball. I just think the offense is going to be really weak in general, just because hard-headed coaches that just want to run the ball all the time, and that's all they do. And then the whole team is banged up. I just think he's the only real option, but when he's the only real option on offense, teams can smarten up and try to shut him down. So
okay, that's valuable. And the other part of that is it's an expected regression on his efficiency, because his efficiency was ridiculous. It's like Mike Williams, those two. I mean, it's like more likely than not that they regress on their efficiency. So,
right, but then again, you only paid $15 for Tyler Lockett, so whatever. If he regresses, whatever. Who cares,
Yeah. I would have rather had Godwin, but Sean was bidding me up for him.
That's my guy.
So Lockett was my consolation prize.
Godwin could be really good this year. He can replace he could be Adam Humphries type of volume for that offense, but also take in some outside receiving work.
I think he's got an even higher floor than that. You're talking about the guy who's basically taking the Larry Fitzgerald role in a Bruce Arians offense, and we know how Arians like to use Fitz. It's unbelievable what Godwin's outlook really is on this season. Like, he really could supplant Evans as the wide receiver one in that offense. He also saw a ridiculous amount of red zone usage. Like, he was a target there. He gets open in space. He's just like, he won't come off the field. That's according to Bruce. There's so many reasons to love him. I preferred him over Lockett, but that's such as life.
Let's talk more about how awesome my team is. I like this. I like this change of car. But so I have a prediction on your team, Kyle.
What's that?
You're going to be plugging in Josh Gordon over either Lockett or Williams by week 4 because of what's going on.
Oh, you can put in Josh Gordon in this week.
Yeah, I might.
You might. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, he becomes your standby on WR2. That's just
I believe in Josh Gordon this year. I just picked him up in a dynasty league. I am like eerily high on him, and I know it's concerning. And there's so many reasons to doubt actually like running with Josh Gordon, especially in the long term. But in the short term, he's healthy. He's active. He's off of suspension. He's playing for an offense that has no receivers. They just put N'Keal Harry on IR. He is just primed to be their deep threat receiver. It's basically, who are they starting? Edelman, Philip Dorsett, and Josh Gordon. And Josh Gordon is the X. Dorsett is a Z. Like, he's just he's a smaller field stretcher. They've even used him as kind of a possession receiver. So I don't know if you guys watched any of Josh Gordon's like healthy games last year. But he looked like a man amongst boys still. I don't care that he's like, 29 now? I don't even think he's that old.
He was just getting open easy. Yeah. He was getting open super easy.
He's really good at football. I mean, he's just one of those guys where he's just really good at football. Like Keenan Allen or somebody. It's just like, you can't deny it. He's just good. I like that. Yeah. Men among boys. That's exactly. Oh, the Raiders just released Antonio Brown.
Oh my God.
That just happened. Now, where does he go? Yeah, AB. He's gone. No. Yeah, he said he demanded on Instagram, release me.
No.
Yep, and then they did. Sorry, my son is like, what?
How much is the Tyrell Williams blind bid going to be in our flea flicker?
That is a good question, but I feel like this is not appropriate for the podcast.
Tyrell Williams wasn't on a team yet?
No, he's on
really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Anyway,
suddenly Kyle and Sean became very distracted on the podcast. It was almost like they weren't paying attention to what they were saying anymore and doing something else.
Sleeper app open quick.
So yeah, I gotta go, guys.
Well, let's.
Somebody already has them
here. So we don't have to talk about my team anymore. It's good.
It is.
Bring it.
Yeah. So it burns when I pee. I believe this is Ariel. Didn't spend at all on quarterback. Again, it's another one of those teams that is just going to be streaming quarterbacks for both positions. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't feel very good.
Well, after Mitch's performance on Thursday, I feel worse about it. I think Mitch had some upside coming into the season, but, man, he didn't show any signs of stepping forward.
But his wide receivers core and his running backs are really stacked, though, when you look at it. And Like Ezekiel Alley for only 40. That's pretty good. Got Josh Jacobs for 20. I mean, Sean and I have had this conversation before. I'm not a believer in Josh Jacobs just because I'm not a believer in the Raiders offense, and a running back on a bad offense is not really good for fantasy football ever. And Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins, like, that's solid. And also Robert Woods, like his 3 wide receivers are just absolute monstrous.
Mm-hmm.
Tevin Coleman, really good.
Yeah, he's another one of these teams that didn't spend a dime on tight end, and we have to really see how that pans out.
Yeah, he spent $3 for Tyler Eifert, Delaney Walker, and Jordan Reed. I think you can pick one of those 3 guys, and if you pick right, you'll have a good week on the tight end position, and you only spent $3. It's just the thing, you have to pick right, because those are 3 guys that could be very, very valuable for their teams. It just depends on what week you're playing them.
Yeah, he's gonna have to play quarterbacks very accurately too.
Yep.
Lamar Jackson with the depressed rushing production in this league, I don't like him. So you're gonna have to find him like as a passing weapon on the weeks that he is going to be able to throw for a couple touchdowns instead of just running everything in. And I like Sam Darnold a lot for $1, especially.
Yeah, Sam Darnold for $1.
I think he's a sleeper. He's the biggest sleeper of the year. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I think you're going to have a hard time stringing together 2 good quarterback plays every week, though, of those 3. So that would be the biggest challenge for this team. But, yeah, he has nothing to worry about outside of a little bit of depth at wide receiver maybe that he could use.
He's got Deshaun Jackson and Dante Pettis, too. We've got both of those.
Dante Pettis, man. Whoa, that's such a big question mark for reading. It's driving me crazy. That's the one guy that's driving me crazy that I have a lot of stock in across leagues. And just, it's like, anyway, we'll see. We're going to find out real quick, right? But on paper, he should be great. But then you have all these other considerations on the coach speak and all this other crap. And against Tampa Bay on paper, he should do really well.
Yeah, you'll know real soon.
Well, yeah, exactly. I can't wait to find out.
I actually think Tampa Bay is going to have a good defense this year. See, everybody keeps on saying, like, Bruce Arians is going to make Tampa Bay have a good offense.
Yeah.
They already had a good offense with Dirk Cutter. I don't think it's an upgrade going from Dirk Cutter to Bruce Arians. They lost weapons on offense. I think this offense is going to see a regression. I think where they're going to get good at is defense, because Mike Smith was the worst modern defensive coordinator in the NFL by far. His defense was absolute doo-doo.
Secondary. Who do they have? Who are their defensive backs? I don't know much about them.
They're horrible.
They're really bad.
I was going to say, but you can't make still purse out of a sow's ear, right? I was not aware of any shutdown corners or anything happening there, right?
Again, their corners looked bad because of the scheme. So maybe the corners aren't as bad as people think they are. When you have corners playing 15 yards off of the wide receiver, and they just get these free 5-yard slants plus a little bit more after they catch the ball repeatedly over and over again, and the coach is asked, hey, why are the cornerbacks playing so far back? And the coach says, we just let them do whatever they want, whatever they feel comfortable with. Yeah, that's a problem with coaching.
They were favoring man coverage, or they were like in cover 3 all the time? Or were they?
They played a mix. But yeah, they had these guys who were good at playing pass coverage, playing 10 to 15 yards back. Like, no joke. They were so far back from the wide receiver.
Which when employed in the right measure can kind of work. Like Jim Schwartz of the Eagles, shout out Jim Schwartz. He does that a lot. And we were frustrated. Actually, Kyle and I were at the Tampa Bay game for the Eagles last year, watching him do that a little too much and just permitting a lot of yardage. But if you do it like the right way in the right places, it can work. But you can't just keep doing it and allowing first downs. That's not going to work.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. It's just like the whole, okay, we'll give them the first down, but we'll try to get, the interception or a forced fumble.
And you have to have an insanely good red zone defense. That's the other thing.
Yep.
You have to just the probability of conversion in red zone has to be extremely low against your defense.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think this defense is going to be good this year. I think the offense is not going to be as good as it was last year. And because the defense is better, it also gives the offenses less opportunity. So I don't think the Tampa Bay offense is going to be as good as.
That is a spicy ass take. Yeah. That's a spicy ass take, my friend. All right. We'll see. See what happens there. That's spicy.
So yeah, who were we talking about? We were talking about it burns when I pee.
Yeah, we were.
Were we talking about that? I wasn't. Okay. Thanks for sharing.
I think he's actually going to have a good team, personally.
Yeah, I think he's a little weak at those positions we talked about at QB and tight end. I think if he can bolster that in some way, I think his team is set up for success. But I think it's harder to perform well in a super flex league with those quarterbacks than people think it is.
That my final word on is just really jealous of Dante Pettis for $1. That's my final thought on that.
And then next team is Marshall Law. We talked about him a good bit already. I mean, he got the super cheap quarterbacks. He got Drew Brees for $8, and then Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, we kind of did talk about that already.
About this team.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham's. So tight end wise, he's okay. Greg Olsen as long as he lasts. I mean, as long as he doesn't retire mid-year.
For $1. This could be good. Jimmy Graham for $1 too. After yesterday's game, I'm really high on Jimmy Graham. After or not yesterday, but Thursday night's game.
Yeah,
his team reminds me of Ariel's in a big way. It's just it's a lot thinner at receiver, obviously.
It's the exact opposite.
Yeah. But I like what he did, spending down at quarterback and tight end here in a more efficient way. I think he stacked his roster with more upside. I think Ariel's tight ends here, Eifert, Reed, and Delaney Walker. If you put a list together of like three of the oldest, most injury-prone tight ends in the league, like those guys would be on the top of it versus like what Robert did here with Mark Andrews is young breakout potential. Trey Burton, Jimmy Graham, and Greg Olsen are older, but he's offset that with some upside breakout potential, at least in Andrews. And we've already seen how Jimmy Graham has performed. So I like that. They're better offenses too across the board, Green Bay and Carolina and Baltimore. So yeah, I like what he did with his team. I also like his quarterbacks better. I think Breeze has a lot of great home game potential, really still blows up when he's playing in domes at home, especially. I think Prescott's poised for a better season, and we don't know what we have with Garoppolo yet, but there is a chance that he's a pretty decent pocket passer.
But that's a good third quarterback, though.
And actually, I'm a really big believer in Corey Davis, too.
Really?
There were weeks last year where he had like 40-point games.
We just need Mariota to stay healthy, and
Corey Davis is not the problem. It's his supporting cast.
You know what I mean? Mariota to be able to feel his hands as well. He needs to be able to feel his hands.
Yeah. Because when the games where he was on, he was like an absolute stud superstar. It was just like which is the weird thing to me. It's because Amari Cooper, how much did Amari Cooper go? Amari Cooper went for $23. Amari Cooper, large stretches of the season, was absolute ass. Right?
Horrible.
And then a couple of games, he scored a lot of points. That's the same thing with Corey Davis. But Corey Davis' problem is not that he's not talented, it's his team is bad. That's just my personal take on it. It's just like I viewed Corey Davis exactly the same way I view Amari Cooper. And I think we lost Kyle again.
Oh, yeah. We sure did. or he's just very, very deep in thought.
Yes. There he goes.
There he goes.
All right. Let's pause it real quick and see if he comes back.
Yeah. All right. Where were we, guys? Kyle's back again.
We were talking about martial law. We're just wrapping up. I actually think this team is pretty okay. I'd say okay.
Pretty okay.
That running back advantage is going to be really hard to beat, but I don't know how the rest of the team is going to.
McCaffrey and Kamara, that's beastly.
Yeah, just so disgusting.
That's disgusting. They should not be side by side anywhere ever.
And
that's the kind of thing that you can only get in an auction league. That's why,
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
That's a good thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is probably one of those teams that is going to be like on the border of making the playoffs. Yeah, that's my opinion.
I think
Moving on. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll get one last word in here on Robert. I think you're right. This is one of the only things you can do in an auction league, or one of the only ways you can get this is in an auction league. And so Robert has fulfilled a dream of his, which is to have all of these running backs on the same squad. And can't fault him for playing into his fantasies. But it is yet to be determined whether or not it's an actual viable fantasy football strategy, considering he needs to start 9 other players.
Yeah.
So,
and I would feel really good about this team, right? If I felt better about his wide receivers. Because I don't feel anything about Kenny Galladay, and I know T.Y. Hilton's and I like Corey Davis, but I still, I'm not feeling it.
Here's the thing. It's risky, but if Kenny Galladay and T.Y. Hilton deliver even decent numbers, like just okay, he wins. I'm sorry. He's got McCaffrey, Kamara, and Joe fucking Mixon.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like those guys, there's no guarantees, but that is just sick. That's sick, It'd be like having Julio Jones, Mike Evans, and I don't know, Adam Thielen or Tyler Lockett or Devontae Adams, right? It's insane.
Yeah, so this is all the more reason to not let him get Tyrell Williams off the waiver wire.
Go all in, Kyle. Go all in. Blow that budget.
100 fab on Tyrell, just to prevent Robert from making a bad team.
My take on this team is only going to make the playoffs if he plays really well. And Robert is a really good fantasy football player. So it's going to be picking up the right guys off of the waiver wire and choosing the right players to play that week. That's the only way. That's how he will win. If he picks up good guys off the waiver wire and if he constantly makes the right sit and start decisions, he's going to have to make a lot of all over his team.
You're getting warbly. Sorry. You're
am I?
Yeah.
Am I back yet or no?
Yeah. Put your mic a little closer. Your volume went down and then it cut out. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay.
Better?
Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
But basically, all I'm saying is he's going to have to make a lot of sit and start decisions. It's not going to be an easy team to run. It can take a lot of thought process, and if he makes the right decisions, this team is going to be insanely strong. But it requires him making the right decisions. And hard to play.
Also, if you make a video for us to react to, you'll get like twice as much speaking time because we're all ready to talk shit to Robert after his little spiel.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything to weigh in on Robert's team?
No, I have about 20 minutes so before I have to jet, so we should move on.
We'll do this really quick because you got to go too, right, Kyle?
Yeah, I gotta get going, but let's finish up.
Okay, so next team is my team. Again, I went with my thought process where I think quarterbacks are going to be a little bit more important than people thought. I think Matt Ryan is potentially the best quarterback in the league this year if Patrick Mahomes has a decline. I also think Jared Goff, just like the Carson Wentz, I think he's being extremely underrated. The dude threw for 4,200 yards last season. And that's with having players injured. I think Jared Goff could be insanely good as well. So that's why I was going to pay up on him. Like Aaron Rodgers went for $21 and Jared Goff went for $20. I think I got the better deal. I think Jared Goff is better.
You have a strong team. I give you really high grades on almost everything. If I could pick on anything, it would be your running backs are risky.
My running backs are super risky. They're
risky, but man, you're so strong with quarterback. I mean, you're a tight end. You got Kittle. Your wide receivers, Evans, Kupp, Anderson, and we'll see. But you have Curtis Samuel behind him and Dede Westbrook, who I'm big on Dede Westbrook. So you're a strong, solid team. I think you're going to do well. I definitely see you being in the playoffs.
Yeah, just my crutch is going to be running back 100%. If Kerryon jumps on busts, I'm screwed. And if Aaron Jones keeps on being in the timeshare, I'm screwed.
Aaron Jones, I love him as a player, and I'm just like, that's just a big question, right? It's like the getting
they keep
stolen
on playing
from.
Freaking Williams, man. It's like it's bad.
It's a few of those situations in the NFL right now. It's just really annoying.
Yeah.
Holding back value.
Yeah.
Good team though. Good draft.
Yeah, I think I got really good value on Cooper Kupp. I think Cooper Kupp is insane here. He goes an insane pace before he got hurt last year.
I believe he was number one for the games he was in. He was in the top 3. I thought he was number 1 for like a significant portion of the games. He was. I can't remember the exact stat, but it was like blew me away that he was. He was literally like number 1 or in the top 3 for the games where he was actually in. So
I'm actually surprised I got him for only $12. To be honest with you, I think he's going to be insanely good this year.
It's a good pickup for sure.
But yeah, anything to say about my team, Kyle?
I like your exposure to the Rams offense between Goff and Kupp. I know that you're a big proponent for targeting good offenses. I'm a little surprised that you didn't go after any more Chiefs players harder, aside from Butker, but I don't know if that counts as Chiefs exposure or not. I think you have some depth there at receiver. I like Curtis Samuel and Dede Westbrook a lot. I'm not high on Fitzgerald, but I can see why people would be. And, I think spending up on Kittle was a really smart move because I think he is the receiver 1 in San Francisco. And we already talked about the tight end bonuses. I think you're going to really disappoint some people, or they will be disappointed in themselves when Kittle is scoring like 30 burgers.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I ask a question? Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I was going to say, I wanted to ask a question about who do you guys think got the best value at tight end across the draft?
I think Evan Ingram at 18 is probably, based on what we've been talking about, how good.
18, or if any of these guys that paid $1 for their tight end and the tight end ends up blowing up. For example, Tyler Eifert or Greg Olsen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jordan Reed or Delaney Walker too. So like any of these $1 tight ends that just happen to blow up.
I'd put the Jared Cook at $3 in there too. It's the Saints.
Jared Cook for $3. Yeah, that's great.
That to me that's the one that stands out to me is just insane potential value there.
Vance McDonald for $10. I can see him picking up a lot of first downs.
Yeah.
Hunter Henry for 4. Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, this is the crazy one.
Wait. Oh shit, that's good.
Be able to play a tight end in the flex.
I didn't see that. Fuck you, Kyle.
Hunter Henry for 4 is
that okay? That's
gross.
That's gross. Yeah, you win. That's the number 1. I just didn't see it because it was not in that T. Yeah, I figured Hunter Henry would be in the first slot.
Hunter Henry for 4. Yeah. Hunter Henry in the flex play.
There's only 6. That's the thing. You really needed to get in the 6. There's 10 people in the league. To me, there's like 6 with a drop off on paper right now. Unless there's going to be breakouts nobody predicted, just like last year. But
exactly.
Just going into it with what we know, that there were 6 to target. All
right. So next team is Holden. Got his team renamed from H-Bug to Elderly Gangbang. Fun times. He paid up big for Patrick Mahomes on 35, and then he also paid up for Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Again, I'm not a believer in Russell Wilson in fantasy this year.
You say you are or aren't?
I am not.
You're not. Okay.
Russell Wilson this year.
Really?
Yeah, I know he is good, but again, when the team keeps running the football,
and all his passing targets are hurt. Yeah.
All his passing targets are hurt. I mean. Yeah. I just see a lot more players with upside potential, and I just see Russell Wilson, not having any upside at all coming into the season.
But it kind of doesn't matter because he has Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, so
exactly.
Well, it's like almost not an issue. Yeah.
It's why though spending 13 on him was a bad choice because of how inexpensive other running back or other quarterbacks were.
Yeah,
agreed.
It was a giant waste. Yeah.
Agreed.
But we've all made mistakes in the draft, you know what I mean? And his number 1 wide receiver is Odell Beckham, and I know Odell Beckham is a beast, but like, how often does a wide receiver come into an offense in their very first year they're good? It almost never happens. And to have your number 1 wide receiver and not be Odell Beckham and all your other wide receivers are $1 wide receivers,
Well, my counterpoint to that would be somebody like Amari Cooper, who isn't half the receiver that OBJ is, and he walked into Dallas and was doing pretty well.
True. That's true.
So,
yeah, and Beckham's about to get the best quarterback play he's ever had.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of reason to love Odell, but the thing is, when you have to start 3 and you only have 4, and like there's an option to start in flex, Marquise Goodwin and Geronimo Allison aren't going to cut it as your depth. Like he's way too thin there. He needs at least 2 more receivers. And I think he's lost an opportunity at this point. I mean, there will be some waiver plays, but he didn't capture any upside at receiver. And I think that's a mistake. And I think he overspent at quarterback and missed out on an opportunity to do that. He has a lot of depth at running back, which I find.
Yeah, I love his running backs. Running backs are awesome.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you guys love? Really? Are we looking at
James Conner and Derrick Henry?
Well, I love James Conner. Derrick Henry, I am not. No, that to me.
Finished last season.
Dude, that's a small sample size.
I know.
That's a small sample. That's a 5-game sample size.
I know, but Derrick Henry doesn't quite work out, then he can start playing matchups with his RB2s with Marlon Mack and Phillip Lindsay. Like he can start picking matchups, so he'll always have at least 2 guys. Yeah,
you're right. He does have pretty strong backups there. I'm not a Rojo, and I think Adrian Peterson's lost his job now, and I'm not big on Ito. But yeah, that's true. He does have Marlon Mack. I want to point something out about Marlon Mack, though. Okay, I see risk here. I see Derrick Henry risk based on the small sample size, and I see Marlon Mack risk in that. Did you know that Marlon Mack scored the majority of his points in garbage time production from being ahead in the game script?
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to happen this year with the Colts without Andrew Luck? That equals risk. And to check the stats. Okay. So I mean, I'm just putting that out there. I'm not questioning Marlon Mack, but a lot of that production came in garbage time.
There's a lot more talk, though, that they do want to get him more involved in just the regular game, and they want to run the ball more and stuff like that. There's been a lot of talk on that. So maybe those 2 things offset each other. But
yeah. I have a couple shares of Marlon Mack myself. Just the question I ask myself, it's like,
no, he's definitely a risky player. I have him in our dynasty league, and I don't feel good about that.
Yeah,
that's my RB2. I'm not feeling it.
I think Lindsey for 13 is something that makes his running back core look better. It's definitely he's going to start the beginning of the season. There's no guarantee he keeps the same workload, but I do like Phillip Lindsay there.
Chris Thompson for 1 too. Remember how good Chris Thompson was before he got hurt?
Chris Thompson for $1 is a good buy.
It's amazing.
Phillip Lindsay is there's another timeshare situation, right? That's another risk.
Yeah. It gives him an out, though, if Henry really is a bust and if Mack is a bust. At least he has, some options there. But he's capturing some good upside at running back. I don't love it, but, it's hard to love anything else about his team. So, I'm just grasping at straws here, guys.
Yeah. No, I think he's a contender for sure. This is definitely not a weak team.
It sounds like we're shitting on him, but
no,
reality, I think he has problems that if he plays smart, he can fix those problems and still be a very strong team.
I give him a B+ or A- even.
No way.
I
don't see how he's like outside of the. I think he's bottom 3 after the draft, and I don't think
bottom 3. Wow, really?
Yeah, I don't.
His big weakness is going to be the fact that he doesn't have a single tight end on his roster, and what is he going to do about that?
No tight ends
Yeah, that's true. We hadn't talked about tight end.
Yeah, it's going to be like one of those things where I play against Holden, and he gets production for all his other things, but then my tight end puts up 30 points, and his tight end puts up 5. And it's like, okay, this is how.
I was staring at the blankness and not at somehow seeing it. So, yeah, no, that's right. I'd have to revise that. Because there's nothing on the waiver wire at tight end right now. So
there's nothing.
I don't know what that's going to look like.
So, yeah, that probably actually, when we think about that, it's probably a really weak team. So we'll go on to House of Priya Prism next.
These are great names. A+ on these names, all of them.
And this was chosen. This is not forced. This is his actual team name that he wants. The man got, for his running backs, he got Lev Bell and Sony Michel. Darwin Thompson, that upside. Who knows? Maybe he does something.
I think Darwin Thompson's value went.
You got Darrell Henderson for $1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I think I feel pretty good about his running backs. His quarterbacks are real weak. If Derek
I want to question that actually, because Le'Veon Bell is not a gimme. We don't know what's going to happen there. He's on the Jets, and Sony Michel has the knee thing, but I believe in him, but that's risk. And then behind that, you've got Darwin Thompson, whose value just went down, and he's not guaranteed anything. CJ Anderson, these are like all of these are question marks. And
yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
so I actually see that as the weakness on this roster right now, as far as I see it. To me, you could look at it real quick and say, "Oh yeah, those are good names and everything." But if you actually dig behind it, it's risk. I'm not saying it's going to be a failure, but there's a lot of risk there.
And especially because he's the Antonio Brown owner who is no longer with us.
Oh yeah, and that too.
Yeah, I was going to say his biggest strength is receiver. I mean, Juju and Tyreek, it's a really nice setup.
That's nasty.
Losing Brown actually exposes his depth because I don't know if Hardman has any value as long as Hill is healthy. I mean, he might be coming in as like the wide receiver 3 there. And maybe the wide receiver 3 in Mahomes' offense is worth something, but I mean, he'll be splitting time with Demarcus Robinson. Kiki QT, not healthy. I like Michael Gallup a lot for $1, but his workload is like less than assured. So yeah, he's looking really thin at receiver, even though he's got a really strong top half. I think his running back depth is also very thin. You know, we talked about McCoy earlier. I think Darwin Thompson is the guy who takes the biggest hit from Shady McCoy.
From Shady McCoy coming in. Yeah, you're probably right.
Coming to KC.
Definitely.
More so than Damian Williams. So Darwin, to me, moves down for that reason. You know, Priapism is a Chiefs fan, so he definitely has some homerism in him. And I think that you can tell by some of those picks, Hardman and Thompson. You know, he's just grabbing rookies on the Chiefs offense. It's not a bad strategy, but, you know, maybe paying $5 for him is too much when he could have got.
Well, in Dynasty, but we're not in Dynasty here, so.
Right. Yeah.
Did you know that Gallup's numbers went up with Amari Cooper on the field?
Yeah, man. He's a legit weapon there. Like, he's got a really great depth of target, too.
Yep. He exposes a lot of mismatches because of Amari Cooper drawing CB1.
I like him a lot. I don't know that he's a weekly starter. I guess that would be my biggest concern with him. I mean, you could definitely put him in, like, flex him or, you know, just hoping for the best because I think he has upside. But I don't know that he's consistent enough yet. But I do like his tight ends. Darren Waller is a nice option there for $1 to back up Zach Ertz.
Yeah. That's in the top 3 tight end scorers right there, Waller.
Blake Bell as a homer pick, obviously. I don't even know if he's still on his roster. But, you know, you can kind of see Priapism's tendencies.
Who is Blake Bell?
He's like
backup tight end.
Oh, okay. Never heard of him before. I guess that's why.
Yeah, Kelsey goes down. Blake Bell steps in, and Priapism's going to try to gouge me for him or something.
Yeah. And he's got Zach Ertz on his team too, which, you know, here's the thing. Zach Ertz, everybody's saying that he's not going to be as good as last year. But what if all these options on the offense make the option stronger and gives him more touchdowns and he actually ends up being better than he was last year?
Dallas Goedert is probably the best tight end in the league, which will be shown in time. He's just not there yet. He's not developed to be the best tight end. He will be the new Travis Kelce. That's my prediction. Dallas Goedert is a better tight end than Zach Ertz.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. That's my spicy take. Okay.
Spicy.
Dallas Goedert is a fucking baller. Okay. And that's going to cut into Zach Ertz's direction. Plus, he's bound for regression. I love Zach Ertz, by the way. I mean, I have his jersey upstairs. But he is bound for regression here. They're not going to over-target him like they did last year. He's splitting just, you know, there's just targeting is being split across all these different guys. You know, Alshon and Deshaun Jackson's going to get, like, you know, so many mouths to feed. J-Jaw. So it's splitting, and so it's bound for regression there. So that's pretty pricey for Zach Ertz. So that I just want to say, like, even as an Eagles fan and everything, and a Zach Ertz fan, like, that's danger for me. I own 0 shares of Zach Ertz this year.
So what you're saying is I should try to sell Zach Ertz right now in our Dynasty League.
I would sell the shit out of Zach Ertz right now. I would in Dynasty, I would sell Zach Ertz. I would buy Dallas Goedert. And I would buy Darren Waller big time. That's why Darren Waller for $1 is fucking awesome. Because who thrived in the Raiders offense last year? I just talked about it. Jared Cook, right? Yeah. Unknown, comes in, target monster. Darren Waller. I mean, maybe the Hard Knocks is inflated a little bit, but he's a baller. And anyway, I think he's in the Jared Cook position right now. You know, I think he's going
especially with AB gone.
Like and then that like that just happened 10 minutes ago, whatever. Yeah. So anyway, I think that's the steal of the draft right there. That's my prediction. Steal of the draft, Darren Waller for $1.
Yeah, I think he approached tight end very well. Well, let me ask you a question, Sean. Would you rather have Derek Carr and Matthew Stafford, or just Carson Wentz?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Well, I mean, I never was going to, like I said, like I never intended, I would never have just two. In fact, I'd usually have three in a super flex. But if you're going to make me do that, well, I would take Carson Wentz and then just play the waiver wire game. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how high I am on Carson Wentz. But I mean, I get a little bit of a gut punch, but I don't trust Derek Carr or Matthew Stafford. So I'd rather have one guy I'm super confident in than two that I'm really not at all. Yeah, so I'd have to say that, even though the waiver wire is like, you know, well, who did I end up with? I have what do I got right now? Wrong place. Wow, I'm in the wrong place. There we go. Team. So yeah, I have Joe Flacco right now. So I'd much rather have Carson Wentz than Joe Flacco.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I think it comes down to, you know, I don't think spending bare minimum is a good strategy in this league, because this is what happens when you get two quarterbacks for $2. You know, I don't feel good about any of those guys. So I think, you know, when we're talking about budget allocation, you got to allocate something to the quarterback position, because otherwise you're going to end up with very low upside options, and you need to have some sort of ceiling built into like your quarterback position somewhere.
Here's the thing, though. I think as wide receivers, running backs, and tight end is good enough to make up for the fact that he's going to be streaming quarterbacks.
I don't think so. I think he's going to really suffer from trying to roll Carr and Stafford out there every week, especially with AB gone. And that's like a big roster weakness.
He definitely can't start Carr. He can't start Carr. He's got to go find somebody else.
What's left right now? You've got on the waiver wires right now, you got Tom Brady. He should be running out to get Tom Brady right now, because that's it. Like Daniel Jones. I mean, Brian Fitzpatrick.
I'll totally start Jacoby Brissett over Derek Carr this week. I would 100% start.
Yeah, I agree. 100% without AB. Yeah, he should be running out to get Tom Brady right now. That's what I would say.
How did Brady end up on the waivers? What the hell's happening in this league?
He got
Madness.
You got dropped, yeah.
Oh my God!
Was it me that dropped him for?
No,
it was Josh. Josh dropped him.
Oh, hi. We got to get you. Are you ready for dance?
All right.
Go get ready for dance.
I think this is a good spot to call it, though, since this guy got to go going. Well, thanks everybody for showing up.
Thanks, guys. Looking forward to it.
Thanks.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, bring down the champion. It's this guy. Come on.
Oh, you're the champion? Okay.
Come at me, bro.
Later, guys.
All right.